Hello and welcome to my exhibition, So Long Hong Kong. This is my final exhibition in Hong Kong, and here it is. There's the text, which you can not see because of the way the lighting hits the camera. These pieces here are hanging pieces that you can walk behind and around. See my hand there? And they're hung, and they can sort of move in the breeze a little bit. There was a breeze indoors, which there isn't. These are asymmetric writing. So I love asymmetric writing. They're marks on paper and cut out for me that are clearly a form of writing, but they're not necessarily readable. And so that's quite exciting for me. They can mean just about anything. And these are all hand-cut pieces, all these pieces up here and these ones here. These ones have plexiglass on both sides so that you can see through the frame onto the wall in the back. So if I just move them slightly, that shadow moves as well, which is really exciting. And I'm going to show you more about that in just a moment. So this is also asymmetric writing. These pieces here are cut out of parchment paper, and then they're put on top of a painted background. So I've got one piece here, which is called a two-sided conversation. So you can recognize it as writing, but you can't necessarily recognize what the writing is itself. And this is the other side of that. This was one-sided conversation, and this one is one that's only partially cut. So you don't get to see all of it through there. And then we've got this one, which is actually a two-piece as well, but one of the pieces I've already sold. So this is called Talking To, and it's all about conversations that we hear. We don't necessarily understand everything that's said in the conversation, but we are able to understand what's going on. I just have to go and turn the music. And this is the kitchen. But I'm afraid of getting told that I can't post it because there's music on it. Okay, let's try this again. All right, so we've got the asymmetric writing, the pieces up here, and the pieces on the wall here. And then we come into the rest of the gallery, and I tend to see it as going this way around, but I'm going to go the other way, so I don't know why I said that. I've got some pieces down here. These are all just pieces that I've worked on throughout the years in Hong Kong. So this one's a collage piece. It's made up of all different kinds of papers and buildings and techniques. Hong Kong based, obviously it's a Hong Kong skyline. This one here is a picture I call Leftover Gods. So sometimes when you're walking in Hong Kong in the mountains, you come across, even sometimes in the city boundaries, you come across these shrines that are made up of leftover gods. So say grandma dies and she's got a god that she prays to. And Hong Kong people are extremely practical. So you don't want to throw away the god because that might bring you bad luck. So you take the god into the mountain and you find one of these little leftover god shrines and you leave them there. So it's a mishmash of all these different gods. There's the big fat Buddhas and the Gunyams and all kinds of people. See this guy back here. I don't know their names very well, I'm afraid, so I'm not going to try and pronounce them. But these are leftover gods, and that's a paper cut. So I have a bunch of these as well. Lots of different things that I've worked on over the years. There's also some MTR ones, which I'll talk more about a little bit later. There's fish bags, which we'll talk more about in a moment. And just different things with different backgrounds, different textures, all paper cuts, really. So this one is the Lion Dance Lion, and behind him is red packets. And I've sprayed them with a little bit of white paint because I find the white paint just helps to be able to see it a little bit better. And of course we have some taxis and things like that. So there's those ones. And there's these that are my life drawing series, which are called Art for Weirdos. Well, that's what I call them. And these are my life drawing pieces. And I cut them out of paper once I cut the paper out once I've drawn them. Sometimes I color them in, sometimes I don't. So these are all nude models that come, and when you have a nude model in front of you, they're usually serene and poised and all this sort of thing. And I take them, I cut them out, and then I put them onto a background that's a piece of comic book paper. And with the comic book papers, I also get a whole bunch of these speech bubbles. And so I cut the speech bubbles out as well. And then we end up with all kinds of like ridiculous things, like I never had the camaraderie of fellow men. I close my eyes and wait for the darkness, right? After where we came from, that I should be an old man by now. So there's all these like really dramatic speech bubbles that go along with the pictures of these serene people posing nude. So I really love these, and I've got a whole bunch of them down here, as well as a bunch of paper cuts that come from life drawing. So things like this, where instead of drawing with a pencil, I draw with a cutting knife instead. So those are things here, and that's called Art for Weirdos. In the past few years, I've taken over running life drawing classes, blah, blah, blah. But it's the juxtaposition, it's the contrast of the serene model and the over-the-top speech bubbles, like these are all pasted on afterwards. Yeah, zap, grah. Now I am focused, right? But what happened next? So it's all very dramatic, it's all very silly, honestly. And then this series here is about Hong Kong buildings. And Hong Kong buildings kind of reflect the patchwork that is in Hong Kong. So this one, for example, is the Hong Kong Lippo building here. And this is the Tea Ware Museum, which is Flagstaff House. So this is an old colonial style building. And then this is kind of the generic skyscraper building, you know, before we started making fancier skyscrapers. So this is in Central, and I love that you can stand in a place and you can find all three of these pieces, and you can take one picture that has these three eras of architecture very clearly defined in them. And I get that really excited about that. And then in behind it is a newspaper. So that's a paper cut. And then in behind it is a newspaper with from the Sunday newspaper about the jockeys and the horse racing. And then here is a picture, typical picture of a minibus. I ride minibuses almost every day. And behind it is a picture of a wall. So this is from the alleyway. And I love how you get these peeling paint structures and things like that in the alleys. And so I've taken that, and I've actually, you might see a bit of a shine on there in the background. That's actually silver foil, like a gold foil, but with silver. So I've added that into there. Okay. And then there's this piece up here, which is an interesting piece showing a crowd of people standing and listening to people speaking. Over here, this is a building that I lived in a housing estate. And again, the architecture is very brutal, very, it's kind of not very friendly or nice. You know, it's not like, wow, this is so pretty. But there's something really beautiful about the open spaces in front of it, and the way that the light hits it in the afternoon is absolutely gorgeous. And then the repetition of all these windows, and it's just such a Hong Kong sort of thing. And this is a collage of papers to start with before I cut it out. So these are all kinds of things like, I don't know, notes that I've left for myself, maybe storytelling things. There's a bit of comic book in here. There's some notifications that came in the post. So there's all kinds of things that just show up in my studio. This is a little bit of bookbinding paper that one of my friends gave me. There's a Broadway cinema, so it's from a magazine. So there's all kinds of things that show up, and that, for me, shows bits of Hong Kong as well. It's this mishmash, this tapestry of all these different things and places that end up in this one space. Here we have a picture of the Blue House. So this is another paper cut. You can see the paper cut here where the paper sticks out a little bit. I don't love to glue it to the background unless I have to, because I really like these little shadows that you get, little spaces where it's just sticking out just a little bit. And you can see that they're actually made up of red packets. So these are all red packets that I've received or that someone's given me, and I've taped them together with some gum tape and then cut the iconic blue house out of that. So that's a blue house in Wan Chai. The blue house, by the way, has a lot of windows. Like, way more windows than you think it has. Way more windows than you think it has. Way too many windows, in my opinion. This one is another one, just like the three pieces together. So it's kind of hard to see. This is an experiment for me. Again, it's the piece that has two pieces of acrylic, and it's got a shadow behind it, which does make it a bit visually confusing, but also kind of beautiful. I like the way the shadow moves and the way the shadow falls, and it can move around the day. It's pieces of paper, again, with a little bit of graffiti on it, some spray paint, a little bit of paint brushed on, and then cut out. And here we have the Oi, Oil Street. It's where the old Hong Kong Yacht Club used to be, and now it's called Oil Street Art Space. And that's this place down here, which is the old colonial buildings. And then up here we have slightly newer than the last one, generic skyscraper in glass, but nothing too crazy. And this piece right here is actually a skyscraper, a newer one. It's all in this big sheet glass, and it causes reflections of the buildings around it. So these guys here, these wiggly buildings, are actually reflections of buildings around it. So it's like this glass sink in the middle of the city, in the middle of this space, in the middle of this picture, that reflects things around it. But that's actually a building there. So yeah, that's Oil Street, North Point kind of area. Here is my most popular wall. These guys here are little tiny watercolor paintings. So I did these in 2022 when I was struggling with, COVID and everything else that everybody else was struggling with at the time. And they're basically pictures of Hong Kong animals. All these animals can be found in Hong Kong. Many of them are native. Did you know that we have a scorpion in Hong Kong? He's very small. Or nudibranchs, yeah, yellow seahorses. All these animals come from Hong Kong's biodiverse area. And I'm missing quite a few of them now because quite a lot of them have been bought and taken away. And these are just little tiny paintings. So they're the size of a $1 Hong Kong coin. Look at that shrew. He's so cute. Look at how cute that shrew is. Sorry, my photography skills are not great. And there's a blue-tailed skink. How much fun is that? Right? And look at that porcupine. He looks like he's had a rough night. It's a bit how I feel right now. I had the most amazing opening yesterday, but I am feeling a little dusty this morning. And then I've got a few more left here. These guys are very inexpensive. I like my art to be reasonably approachable and affordable. So did you know we have a crab-eating mongoose? We do. I've got a little zine here that I made about my mother's hands. And then you'll find these little birds throughout the space. And yeah, Hong Kong, biodiversity, it's awesome. So here we have this wall here is the Hong Kong housing crisis in an explanation. So I really love the pictures of fish, right? They're really pretty and they're really lovely. But it's really inhumane to keep a fish in a bag in the sunshine on a wall. It's really quite gross. But they're lovely. They make a really nice photo. And again, I played with a bunch of different mediums here. But it's really quite rude to do that. These ones are actually dead fish, not fish in a bag. But so this is my Hong Kong housing crisis. When you're thinking about Hong Kong, you're thinking about how it's our living spaces aren't very nice, and that we're actually living in really inhumane conditions a lot of the time, uncomfortable, not really suitable for human habitation, etc., etc. So that's my commentary on it. This is just a picture of me, because I mean, if you're going to have an exhibition that focuses only on your art, you better have a giant photo of yourself. or painting of yourself. So you've got some asymmetric writing in the back. And these guys here is just a whole bunch of different kind of painting, different scribbles. It's a mixed media piece. This guy here is, again, the asymmetric writing, but it's a Hong Kong map. So that's a map of Hong Kong. Let me see if I can get it all in one photo. Oh, almost. There we go. A map of Hong Kong. That's the entire territory of Hong Kong, and then it's got asymmetric writing on it. So once again, the asymmetric writing is recognizable as writing, but not necessarily readable. In fact, it isn't readable. And so I love how it's been cut out. I love how the cutting changes the map. Bits are missing, just like in conversation. And you get this beautiful way of creating a space, a picture, words. When you look at it, you can see, like, you can almost understand, but not quite. And this is the most exciting part for me. So look at the wall in behind it. So we've got all this conversation that happens in behind the actual piece as well. And when you move it, the words just move, and it's beautiful. This is my incredibly messy desk. This series is about the MTR. And they're all people that I've sketched on the MTR. The first sketches I did in Hong Kong were on the MTR, so these are very nostalgic for me. And you just meet such a microcosm of Hong Kong culture and society on the MTR. It's just wild and exciting. This little room here is kind of my room of esoteric things. I've got some sketchbooks because I brought them along, so I might as well put them on display. They keep changing their picture. This is, again, Canada Goose. That's my nephew rolling down the hill. There's a fish I saw. So it's a sketchbook, a lot of different things. And then up here, again, you've got a few birds and a lot of crowns. So I make a lot of crowns. This guy here is a little tiara made with, doesn't sit very well, made with the ends of paint cans and old crusty paint brushes. This one here is a heart that's glowing. And then we've got the asymmetric writing inside of containers. There's another crown, another pencil crown, because if you're queen of the art, that's what you do. And this crown is made up of pencils from Harvey Chan, who gave me all his leftover pencils when he left Hong Kong. And I made them into a crown. And then we have this one, which is weird, I know, but sometimes you just got to go for it. These guys here are little spiders, and they're made up of teeth. So a friend of mine gave me teeth from her brother, who's a dentist, and I made them into teeth spiders because I can. And they're just little bits of teeth. They're not real teeth. They're fake teeth, but still, they're teeth. And it's a bit strange, I'll admit. Okay. Sometimes when you're explaining your artwork, you're like, yeah, it might be a little bit weird, but, whatever. So this here is called First Impressions, and it's a series, again, of light boxes. And just trying to get you to think about impressions, think about different pictures. So this one here, you look at it, and you think about the picture just for a moment, and you see this image, and this image might look kind of sad or lonely or distressed. And then you press a button, because interaction is important. You press a button, and this one changes. So ready? There'll be a change of your opinion of what's happening. And there you go. There's the complete picture. So trying to get you not to make a decision about people's lives, about what they're feeling, about what's actually happening without knowing the full picture. Sorry, I have to fix one of them because it's fallen out. Hold on. I'm okay. I have not fallen over. Okay. So this is the second one. Here's this lady. And again, she looks elderly, and maybe we make decisions about what her life is like and what things must be like for her. And then we press the button, and there's her granddaughter giving her a kiss. So we make all kinds of decisions about what people's lives are like, but we don't necessarily know what anybody's feeling inside. One more here. This one is a man standing with his arms crossed, And then we press the button and a child appears, and that changes again our point of view. So what assumptions do you make? How sure you are that you have all the information, and how willing are you to change your mind? And this is the last one of these, and it's a group of people standing in a line holding hands, but there's gaps in the line. And this is a community one. And basically it's saying that if you want to change your community, if you want to see change, you need to be part of it. So without being in the picture, there's going to be breaks in the line. And when you connect with the button, it takes your physical being to be there. When you connect with that button and you press that button, the chain is complete. You complete it. Every member of the community is an important member of the community, and it takes all of them to make change. So that's this room of, slightly weird things sometimes. Remember how I said if you have an exhibition, you might as well do pictures of yourself? Well, here's another picture of me. So this is me in the crown that I made out of the pencils from Harvey Chan, and me looking slightly disgruntled. And then there's just treasure all around it. There's all kinds of treasure. Little bits and bobs that have been in my studio. Each one has like a little story that goes along with it. There's Scrabble tiles and angels and rings and horses and there's a tiny little stick that has an R on it that I stole from a restaurant, but whatever. Not always great. So that's another picture of me, and it's an interesting one. I enjoy it. It's called Portrait of the Artist as an Absolute Legend, because, again, if you're going to have a solo show, you might as well big it up, right? Then I've got a bunch of pictures and frames that are translucent or transparent, and they're mostly like life drawing. This one is a cut piece of life drawing. I've got another fish in bags there. And then the last one is this one that's really hard to see without something behind it, but it's hands being held together. And then the last bit is second last bit is these bits in the center. I've got some little books in here. These are actual little books. And they're covered in asymmetric writing as well. So writing that you can recognize. They transform as it goes on. You can read them front to back. But you can't actually read them. Here's a couple more little books, because I do love making little books. This one's filled with leaves, and it's an accordion style book that's actually a button on both sides. So that's another kind of book. And then inside here we have lipstick miniatures. So if you have spare lipsticks that are, you're going to throw away, it's time to get rid of them. You give them to me, okay? So here's a lipstick with a Year of the Dragon on it, and they still function. They can still go in. This one has a rose with a teeny tiny bumblebee. That's that little white dot that you can see on there. My camera is not good enough to pick that up. And then there's Chinese opera here. And this one is beetles. I'm not sure why he's only partially out. Little golden beetles on top of daisies, but they're very hard to see because they're so small. And one more book, again with these vintage plastic buttons on the top of them, and they go into this little box. Okay, and one more bird. Here he is, a Scopes owl, the grumpiest looking owl in Hong Kong. He's also got red eyes, so he's extra scary. That's my little Scopes owl. And then I have a dress here that's on loan from a friend I made a while ago, and it's hers, with these orchids on it. So that's a dress, and then it's in behind with this bit of necklace, which is made here. It's quite long, and it winds around several times. So this necklace it starts on this red dot here. And this necklace is Haruki Murakami's short story, 100% perfect girl that I made into just a wearable piece. And some vintage suitcases, which are part of my life. Okay, thanks very much for joining me. We'll talk to you again soon.